We are going to talk about Ukraine and the global map, about the global ratings of this country, where Ukraine is represented or not. So our colleagues are going to present online resource, the indices and ratings of Ukraine. I invite here Sevgil Musaeva-Borovik, chief editor of the media outlet Ukrainska pravda, Mr. Yevhen Hlybovytskyi, founder of consulting company Pro.mova, Tetyana Ogarkova, who is the curator of UCMC French outreach, Vitaliy Shabunin, co-founder of the Center for Combating Corruption, and our good morning, our project Ukrainian Global Ratings. You can see on the main page of Ukrainska Pravda, which is accessible today. This project represents the indices and ratings of Ukraine where it is represented. Now I'd like to give the floor to Volodymyr Kadygrob, Civil Control Project's curator. He's going to give information. Then I'll step in with this specific information. Good morning to everybody. This project was invented about a year ago. First of all, it is meant for the journalists who seek the information, for the people, for the civil society is one of the tools of monitoring the successes of our authorities. The tools through which you can watch or follow up the reform progress, and also for the international community, which definitely includes those ratings and their reports, strategies, and actually it says the Ukraine based on that. In addition, those ratings are the key factors in forming the image of Ukraine the world over. Today, Ukraine is among such countries as Seychelles, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Colombia, etc. So, on the one hand, we wish to be to be among the group of some of the countries, other countries, but we have seen the place occupied by Ukraine here, according to the global impression. It is planned that in the end of each year we are going to come up with the expert analytical report, about which more details is going to talk Sevgil. This project has a lot of ratings. In order to make it more convenient how to use this tool, we subdivide them in separate categories. We have such categories: economy, society, freedoms, innovations, as well as corruption. In order to see the picture, how the situation changed in different areas, we decided to involve the experts in the implementation of this project, who were selected by our editorial office, and we asked them to write an article why you think the place of Ukraine changed in those ratings, what are the trends which can be instrumental for Ukraine to improve its situation in those ratings in the future. Generally speaking, if you're talking about the economic ratings, Ukraine actually did not improve its position, even the situation changed for the worse, and this because our reforms are very slow. The professor of Pittsburgh University wrote about that. As for the society, Ukraine occupies rather high positions in those ratings, and my colleague Yevhen Hlybovytskyi will say why so. Corruption. We have problems in combating corruption, and Ukraine did not find out a way out of those corrupted countries where it found itself 2 or 3 years ago, before Maidan. And after Maidan, the situation did not change for the better considerably. The same situation with the freedoms. Tetyana Ogarkova will tell you why. And also we have high positions in the ratings for innovations. I would like to introduce to you the authors of all those directors. And Yevhen Hlybovytskyi will tell you what changes took place in the Ukraine's ratings, which are used for to measure the situation in the country. Vitaliy Shabunin is expert in corruption today. He's going to tell you how Ukraine changed its position in the ratings of corruption, and also Tetyana Ogarkova will tell you how the position Ukraine changed in the ratings of freedoms. So, first of all, the floor is given to Yevhen Hlybovytskyi. Speaking about public ratings, our expectations are as follows. We had to have high, let's say, indications based on the society ratings, because we understand that being inside the Ukraine context, that society is a more advanced part of the Ukraine as a country. It would mean that that this kind of progress should be reflected to some extent in the ratings. Situation is not is different, because they measure not the situation of the society, which is very difficult to measure. Otherwise, we would have to take some measurement of the values and the culture. They measure how the society affects the key institutions. If we are talking about the institutions, the situation is much worse here, because this is something which the Ukrainian society doesn't know how to deal with. They know how to deal with the institutions they do not like, but they do not know how to create the institutions which would be to their liking, to its liking. So even in the society part, we have the drop, decline of Ukraine in the key ratings, which mean at least non-growth, which is absolutely understandable. What has been done by the Maidan, by this crisis, actually this balance shook the system, and as a result of the crisis, we have the deterioration of the indicators. On the other hand, we have the window for the improvement. We are talking about 2 years in 2008, 10 or 10. When that window was opened, we never made use of that, and we achieved the bottom point after decline, which became a new norm, and then this new norm became the starting point for the next drop. In this way, we have a situation when the decline or drop in Ukraine in the ratings is rather stable, and depending on how now they are going to implement the reforms, in some time from now, I witness either the growth, or if the crisis persists and become a new norm, we'll see again the stagnation and further decline. In text, we are going through the fragile state situation, and the ratings actually reflect this rather well. Thank you. The floor is given to Vitaliy Shabunin, who is going to tell how the positions, the ratings of Ukraine changed regarding the corruption and its perception in Ukraine. Good afternoon to everybody. Briefly speaking, everything was bad, but there are some chances to change it for the better. The key indicator rating about the corruption in the world over, Press International, which is actually the indicator in the country for 8 other ratings. We have the perception of corruption, which did not measure the level of corruption. They say how many different people, the business, expatriates, and others assess evaluate the level of corruption in Ukraine. Everything is bad. We are in the part of the world where the corruption is not the exception but the rule. I'm optimistic. Why we did not show the growth or the improvement after the revolution of dignity? Because it has some kind of delay. That's why in 2016 we are going to have the rating for the year 2015. So it's a 1 year delay, and actually the laws were adopted in the end of last year and implemented, or creation of institution, and we learned how to create those institutions only this year. I believe that trend to growth, maybe not 20 positions let it be 5-6 positions higher, but we'll see that in 2016. But the indicator whether we were successful, we'll see based on the results of the year 2016. The key reasons for negative perception of the TI rating is based on one phrase: lack of punishment for corruption-related crimes. The reforms implemented by anti-corruption segments were directed to overcome this specific problem. Whether we'll be successful in a deal remove this problem. We have over-regulation procedures in business. The complexity of illustration, the complexity of the legal field will not allow us to make a breakthrough. Without the regulation of business, without the simplification of the different procedures, this will not allow us to make progress or join those countries where corruption has become an exception. And I hope still, I'm optimistic that we are going to make progress in the next few years. Tetyana Ogarkova will tell you about the ratings of Ukraine in the freedom sector. Good afternoon to everybody. First of all, I would like to say that this very important initiative because it allows us to fix the starting point of our analysis. We are going to continue those monitorings next year, and we'll see the dynamics of that. The problem of freedoms is really very important, especially after the Maidan situation. Has been very interesting to see some of the ratings related to the freedoms in Ukraine after the Maidan. It should be noted here that there is a very important rating which is called the General Ratings of Freedoms World Over, which is done provided by Freedom House, and this rating actually allows us to have some optimism because Ukraine made some progress from the 3.5 to 3 points, and there's a kind of reverse points. 7 is the worst index, and 1 is the best one. So Ukraine raised a half a point. In those ratings which we analyzed, they're published with some delay. So in 2015 we can talk about the progress made in 2014. It's understandable why so. Because the Maidan actually took into consideration the free elections, both presidential and parliamentary, development of the public freedoms after Maidan, etc., etc. Another important rating where Ukraine, unfortunately, has the considerable worsening situation. We are talking about the ratings related to the freedom of press. The freedom press actually measures the level of freedom of journalists and media in 180 countries of the world. And back in 2013, Ukraine occupied 127th. Now we occupy 129th. You understand this is a very low index. Why so? Because this rating takes in consideration not only the quality of the media, it takes in consideration the freedom, different freedoms, independence of media of the oligarch of big capital, independence of the state, and some other things like infrastructure, etc., etc. And we do understand that in Ukraine, the overwhelming majority of the big media are not independent. They depend on the capital and the state. But on the contrary, this year we witnessed very powerful changes, which maybe next year will result in the considerable improvement of the rating of Ukraine here. We are talking about those draft laws and the adopted law about publication of information about the end user. This is very important, which will allow us maybe next year to occupy a better place. And another law which was adopted by Verkhovna Rada, the law on digitization of the media, meaning the decrease of the effect of the state on the media. Maybe next year we'll have more grounds for optimism. Another very important rating which I would like to mention, the rating related to the freedom of gender equality. And here I would like to draw your attention to the fact that this is a very positive and optimistic situation because Ukraine occupied already a very good place in 2014 because we take the 56th place among the 140 countries, and we are leading the way. Czech Republic and Romania and Estonia and some other countries. This index takes consideration access to education, healthcare, economic aspects, so equality of men and female, and representation of women in the politics. Speaking about education, we have one of the best indicators or indexes. We really have equal access to education among males and females. More problem we have in the politics, because we occupy 107th place in the world. But on the other hand, this rating reflects the trends of the previous year, but we can already see that this year the number of the females in the Ukrainian parliament increased. We already had 11% as a result of the local elections, local authorities, and which allows us to hope that next year Ukraine will make progress and raise in the table of the ratings next year as well. Situation is complex, but generally speaking, about the freedoms, we have rather good grounds for our optimism for the ratings next year. Thank you.
And we wait for your questions, and we will continue this project. Maybe next year there will be a thematic conference where we broadly discuss why Ukraine is at these places, at these positions, and how can we improve our position and what it depends on. Do you have some questions to our speakers? Introduce yourself, please. Good afternoon, Olga Luchka. Are you going to broaden your project in new directions and new categories? And what are they? Maybe these will be the basis. So we had other categories, and mainly next year there will be security and army, that is also important. And these are the main ratings that are in each category. And maybe there will be some additions to them. We will renew the database of these indices to make this information more full. But these were the basic ratings that estimate these categories. Do you have some other questions? Thank you very much for this presentation. This is a valuable instrument for further work of the media and experts. Thank you very much. And we will invite you next year, and we will look where Ukraine goes. And our next briefing is in 10 minutes. Thank you.